Sawubona. That's Zulu for I see you, which I think is much more interesting than hello, don't you? I see you is something very different than hello. Hello is this ping that we give each other to prove that we're sort of in the same physical space. But I see you is hopefully that we recognize that there's another person there. What I think is interesting about tools like Twitter and Facebook to a far lesser extent and LinkedIn is this great opportunity for serendipity. It's the one thing I use to describe Twitter that's different than how we were doing things before. Your phone doesn't accidentally add 200 or 300 new contacts. If it did, it would be kind of creepy, don't you think? But Twitter does. Twitter does add new people all the time. New people come and find what you're doing. Facebook, to a lesser extent. Facebook is usually the people that you know from high school that you didn't like, now trying to refriend you. Right? You know why you laugh? Because it's true. That and your exes, which then gives you that awesome dinner conversation. Didn't you go out with her? Twitter, you have far less explaining to do, don't you? And yet there's so much opportunity there. And it's an opportunity that's really hard to explain to businesses. It's really, I mean, a good chunk of us in the room perhaps have had that moment where you've explained to your boss why talking about what your dog just did on the lawn is going to save the company. And yet there's so much value there. And the first and foremost thing I want to offer is that if you are not spending time using search.twitter.com, or the search part of TweetDeck or your Seismic or whatever your choice of application is, then you're missing the best of the opportunities because there's so much value in not what your friends are saying, because, I mean, you already get what they're saying, but in what people are saying topically about a location. Before I was able to get here today, I watched the W2E tag on Twitter for some duration of time. So I know where the events are. I know which people are doing poor jobs of advertising that we should go to their booth. I know which people act like humans and actually talk to people versus just advertise and market at me. So I already have an opinion formed on some of the people that I haven't even met yet based on this. It's amazing what you can do. It's amazing that when I came to New York a little while back and I was about to come and I asked the question, where should I stay? Where are the cool kids hanging out in Manhattan right now for hotels? Chris Keefe at Ripple 6 at the time said the Roger Smith Hotel down on 47th and Lexington. Shortly thereafter, Brett Petersell from Mashable said the Roger Smith Hotel. The third person who connected with me was the Roger Smith Hotel and said, you should come, we have a blogger special. I've since learned that all hotels have an everything special, and if I said I loved ice cubes, they probably had an ice cube special. But they reached out to me, and they connected with me. And they're right on the corner of 47th and Lexington. Go there, if nothing else, to eat bacon in Lily's restaurant. If bacon had a god, it would live at the Roger Smith Hotel. Down the street, right down the street, is the Four Seasons Hotel, which is, you know, a very good place. Isidore Sharp knows his business. But there's far less people rushing in and out of that place than the Roger Smith. And I know that the doormen, and I know eventually the managers, go out on the street sometimes and look over at the Roger just down the way and wonder, how did they lose so much business? And how does the Roger Smith get so much business? And the answer is they're a live voice communicating with us on these platforms. What should you be doing with these platforms? Well, number one, you should be listening far more than you should be worrying about what to say. Number two, I want to offer you something that's given me vast monetary gain. Spend 12 times as much time talking about other people as you do yourself. 12 to 1 is my ratio of finding other people's good stuff and pointing it out to others. The more you talk about other people, the more this is a gift, and it's a way to build respect, reputation, and trust. I'm a big fan of those things. The more I spend my time looking for good work by other people, the more I deliver that value back into my system, and the more people follow and then spend time talking about what I'm into. Use your @replies far more than you have been to date. And now this is where I have disagreements with a lot of people. Robert Scoble believes I'm using Twitter wrong. By the way, also Google, you're doing it wrong, because I'm starting to rank for that. I'm proud of that. I believe in responding to as many people as I can, so on every single day, 80-something% of my tweets are responses to other people. Do you know what happens? Sawubona, I see you. You feel seen. It's a whole magical difference than what the news sources are doing and than what lots of the products are online. When a product barks at you all day that you should try XYZ product, the only great thing between Twitter and email is that we can opt out of everybody on Twitter. The more they push, the more we can delete them. Same in Facebook. It's amazing how you say yes to someone and the next thing you know, you're invited to their 14 groups and or invited to try Farmville. What is more sad than making digital sheep? I don't think that's what Philip K. Dick had in mind when he wrote that book. What an inside joke. The other thing, I want to leave you with just a set of questions in my 4 minutes. These questions I've been wandering around with and pondering, and they don't relate just to Twitter, but they do relate to what we're doing here. That call might be for me. The very first question I want you to think of, these are questions for you to ask yourself after this. Number one is, how do we share? How do your products share? How do your services share? How do you share? People looking for jobs, the people who had a live, healthy, thriving network, who used LinkedIn as a communications tool as opposed to a digital resume, now still have a job. People who built their resume after they got laid off, or people who only linked and networked with people in their industry are still looking for jobs 16, 18, 19, 24 months later. How do we share answers lots of things. Ask that question a lot in your business now. How do we extend experiences and relationships? This event, I was watching all the speeches before I walked into the room by watching Seismic and watching the W2E tag. So I got to see how Tara Hunt did on stage. I got to see how David Armano's project went. It was really exciting. How do we extend experiences and relationships? And also, how do we bring them outside of where we are right now? This website for Web 2.0 Expo has all these tools that allow us to network. I think that these tools have some opportunities to improve, but I think that even just bypassing them all, gate jumping, and making new paths are where the opportunities are. How do we collaborate? Open source technology gets this. We see example after example of when we open things up and collaborate, we can have better value. But we're not thinking this way communications-wise. We're not thinking this way in just our general business flow. And we need to drive Twitter and all these other tools deeper into the organization. And we need to drive the use of said collaboration technology inside the firewall harder, deeper, faster. Socialcast, Yammer, those sorts of tools. How do we wire new networks is a question. And when I say that, I don't really mean technology-wise. I mean people-wise. Because my small, powerful network is hugely different than what my company would lay out or what any company would lay out. It doesn't actually pertain to just buyers, sellers, etc. How do we make new distribution? Do you want to know what Walmart and the Mafia have in common? They conquered distribution. Walmart is the best distributor in the land, and that's why they keep crushing all these little mom and pop stores, is because they squeeze operational value out. I sat on an airplane with a guy who handled the food services part of Walmart in those grocery store ones, and one day the roof collapsed on one building, and by the time the roof had finally hit the bottom and they sent out the alarm and the text message hit him, he was able to reroute all of the food that was going there. He was able to get all the perishable goods out of there, all in a big buzz. Distribution. But the web's distribution is at once infinite and yet uncharted. If there's too many paths, then there's no real road. How do we develop relationships that yield? This might be the most important question for tools like Twitter, because just being there and just talking isn't really the game, is it? The relationships that yield is what we need to work on, which is how do we take this community, and hopefully you have a community versus an audience. The difference between an audience and a community is which way you turn the chairs. How do we then take that community and find the part of it that we need that needs to yield? We do need to make money. Baby needs to eat. How do we find that in these tools? And then very lastly, Ralph Waldo Emerson. For everybody who's looking for where's the stats, where the ROI, etc., I'll quickly a case study page. delicious.com/Chris Brogan/case study, the singular, is everything I find on the web that has anything to do with case studies for social media, for those of you who still need training wheels. I call case studies pants for your ass. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Do not go wherever the road may lead, but go where there is no road and leave a trail. The opportunity to innovate starts with doing something that hasn't been done yet, not by looking for how everyone else is doing it. I'm so grateful for your time. My name is Chris Brogan. Thanks.